$180 million from the city of Tampa. That would be $976 million. That's less than the $1.1 billion that the Rays were initially seeking. The Rays came out and said, well, we're willing to go 50-50. Well, guess what? That was the start of the negotiating process, and the Rays fully understood it. Now it looks like the Rays are going to be in that 55% plus range. They're going to be paying for more than half, including insurance, repairs, cost overruns. So how do we arrive at this number, and could there be a vote coming sometime soon? Ladies and gentlemen, let's get more on the details of today's breaking developments. He's with us on the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network WDA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. Hillsborough County Commissioner Ken the Hitman Hagan, who I know is very upset that Beanball with Ronnie Lane is not on tonight since the Rays are not playing, but it will return tomorrow. Ken Hagan, how the hell are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I almost texted you yesterday with the backdoor curveball. I loved it. I loved it. It was great.
Yep. High and Tight with Ronnie Lane will return tomorrow ahead of the Rays and the Marlins. The Rays will be back at Tropicana Field. The Rays are scheduled to be at the Trop through the end of 2028. And then opening day 2029, Ken, will we have a Rays stadium in place for the Rays to be in Tampa? That's the question.
Well, I sure as hell hope so, TKras. Keep your fingers crossed. We still have a few unresolved issues. That being said, today is an enormous day for the Rays, for Tampa and Hillsborough County. It's a significant step forward. We will have on our agenda during next Wednesday's board meeting a vote on a non-binding MOU. Again, it is non-binding. There are a couple of issues that still need to be resolved, but nevertheless, this is an extremely positive step forward in this effort.
So when Ken Babby and the Rays initially came out and said, look, we're willing to pay for at least half, we wrote a big check, $1.7 billion to buy the team. This is a $2.3 billion project that we're going to pay at least half, and now the numbers are starting to trickle out. Initially, it was supposed to be over $1 billion from the public subsidy, and now it looks like it's $976 million. So it sounds like, and you and I talked on opening day, and I asked you the question, are the Rays willing to go the extra mile to bridge the gap if the numbers fall short? And you said yes, and it appears that the Rays are doing so. Does that appear that way to you?
It certainly does. And I got to tell you, it's been so incredibly refreshing working with the Rays ownership group. They certainly possess the sense of urgency to get a deal done that was lacking over the last 16 years. And so that has been sincerely appreciated. That being said, again, this is a complex deal. There's so many moving parts. Our first and guiding principle moving forward, most important, has been protect the taxpayer. We're not raising taxes. We're not raising fees. No one, irrespective of where you live in Hillsborough County, will feel this from an economic perspective, from a tax or fee perspective. And at the same time, it's critical that we protect the taxpayers and ensure that we remain with the highest possible credit rating, which we enjoy from all three credit agencies, one of only a select few counties in the nation that enjoys that. So that's been our guiding principle moving forward in ensuring that we are protecting the taxpayers. And that's why there have been some difficult negotiations. They're ongoing. Again, we're not at the finish line, but there has been significant movement from the team, and they recognize that our folks are working overtime to get this deal done. I mean, working weekends, working Mother's Day, and other important days, and sacrificing significant time away from the family in order to get this deal done to move toward this timeline. So, a great next step, but we still got a little work to do.
Hillsborough County Commissioner Ken Hagan is with me here on The Drive on WDAE, an agreement reached by the Rays and the Hillsborough side in terms of a non-binding MOU. You mentioned the vote next week. I'll ask you about that in a matter of moments. You also mentioned that there are still some critical issues left unresolved. What are those issues?
Well, there's a few of them. a couple that jump out. One is what they call CapEx, which is essentially capital repairs moving forward over the lifetime of the facility, and just trying to iron out those details as far as the Rays assuming most, if not all, of that responsibility. So we're having some intense discussions on that, but that's a critical element because so many folks focus on the upfront money, which is significant, but the reality is there are long-term repairs and improvements that have to be made. And so, again, we have to ensure that we're protecting the taxpayers, and at the same time that we're also recognizing that we have other important partners with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay Lightning, New York Yankees, and we all know that we have a Tampa Bay Buccaneers renovation agreement that's not too far away, in addition to doing some other work with the Yankees and Lightning. So we have to look at the big picture and realize that we're going to have other major investments to make down the road, and just balance them all together to ensure that we are protecting our partners that have been such great partners through the years.
Will this deal at all be, a hindrance to any deal that you may have to do with the Buccaneers or the Lightning or the Yankees down the road?
I don't believe so. I met yesterday with Brian Ford of the Buccaneers to go over, essentially to assure him that we're preserving the money that we had set aside out of the CIT for the Buccaneers. We're not touching that money. That being said, while we still have a ways to go to determine what the final agreement will be there, it's not going to be cheap. And so we're going to have to really be creative in how we reach an agreement there, but I'm not concerned. We'll get there. We're not touching any of the dollars that would be used for the Buccaneers. The Lightning, we just agreed to a major renovation agreement with them a couple of months ago, and we know that within a couple of years, there's some additional improvements that are going to be made, and we're doing what we can internally to ensure that we'll be able to more than reach our responsibilities and ensure that we continue having these facilities state-of-the-art, first class. They're all county-owned, and so it's in our best interest to ensure that we have the technologically advanced state-of-the-art facilities that we can continue to bring in all the major concerts and NCAA events and things of that nature. So it's in our best interest that we're able to continue to improve these facilities and keep them some of the best in the nation.
Ken, I get a lot of calls. I just had one a couple of minutes ago right before you came on. Some people on the Tampa side, some people who are Tampa residents are saying, hey, how is this going to benefit me? And, I tried to explain it the best I could. Maybe you can explain it a heck of a lot better than maybe my side of it, but trying to explain to people that a deal of this size, how massive it is, how generational, how transformative it is, how this is going to benefit the people of Hillsborough County and Tampa for years to come.
Well, it's the biggest development in the history of Hillsborough County. I mean, let's start at that. When you look at the overall investment into this overall development, everyone focuses on the ballpark. The ballpark's a relatively small part of the overall development, but it has the potential to be the same size or greater than Water Street and Midtown combined. And when you look at all of the development and the restaurants and bars and entertainment facilities, in addition to the transforming Hillsborough College, and that in and of itself is enormous, but then it'll also have opportunity for all kind of internships and apprenticeships and other career opportunities for Hillsborough College graduates in the development. From a revenue perspective alone, that CRA area, and I discussed this during our last public meeting, since 2006, that community redevelopment area has generated, I want to say, about $35 million since 2006, about 20 years. The development, our independent financial consultant estimates that the development that we're talking about here will generate through 2042 about $80 million. So I literally said, why are we having this conversation? You're looking at an investment of the $900 million up front, an overall economic impact of $55 billion, a revenue perspective to the government of $2.8 billion, and that one fund alone will go from generating 38 million to 900 and roughly 980 million. I mean, the ROI is enormous. And if you take out baseball and sports and the hatred of billionaire owners and you remove all that from the equation and you say, is this a good investment? I think most rational people would say, of course it is.
Yeah, it is a good investment, and we've been talking about that for God knows how long, since the beginning of time, it seems like. But Ken Hagan just explained it beautifully. Hillsborough County Commissioner is with me here on the drive. All right, talk to us about the next step. So this is non-binding, which means there's some wiggle room, right? There's still some talks that are taking place. You have a big vote next week. Do you think that these critical issues that you just talked about can be hashed out and resolved in time for next week's vote?
Well, the MOU is going to move forward, and that's essentially a framework that allows both sides to dig deeper into the specifics of each agreement. The long-term documents, there's probably 5 or 6 different ones, probably about 500-600 pages in total. It's a very complex deal. Mm-hmm. And so that's why our county attorney, I guess it was several weeks ago, said, hey, we're 60 to 90 days away at best from being able to come to an agreement on all these documents. So we'll get past, I'm confident the MOU will pass next Wednesday, and then that opens the door to really fine-tune a couple of the unresolved issues, but then to dig into all of the legalese that go into all these documents. I mean, there's the lease agreement, there's the community benefits agreement, there's the financing agreement, and a couple other ones I can't think of at the top of my head. But it's going to take a little while to finalize all those once we can come to an agreement on a couple of the unresolved issues. So it's not going to be completely resolved by next Wednesday, but the framework will be, and it's a critical step forward. And we've made significant progress and improvement from where we started. Again, deals like this typically take probably a year or longer to negotiate, and we're really trying to do this in a pretty abbreviated time frame. So, but we're getting there, and I'm certainly optimistic that we'll get there.
Are you confident that vote will pass next Wednesday in the Hillsborough County Commission? This is a commission vote, right?
Yes, it's a county commission vote. I'm confident it will. You know what the vote will be, I can't tell you, but I'm confident that there'll be enough support to again keep the project moving, to keep advancing it in order to allow our staff and our outside consultants to continue fine tuning in order to get a final agreement that we can really debate and discuss.
Are you confident that final agreement will come by June the 1st? I know the Rays have set that deadline in order to kind of move things forward, and they're getting the appropriation from the state budget for Hillsborough for HCC. Is June the 1st going to be the deadline to get it done? Do you think it gets done by June the 1st?
I completely understand the issues and the sense of urgency when it comes to the state funding. That is critical, both from a Hillsborough College perspective and from FDOT on the transportation improvements that are needed in and around the ballpark and development that, again, will benefit not just the ballpark itself, or the development will benefit anyone that lives anywhere near or around Dale Mabry and uses that area. They will benefit. Just another example of this project on how it will benefit us. But that being said, there's no way in hell that gets done by June 1. And we've told them that. They understand that. May not like that, but it's significant that we can get an MOU done by May 20th next week. But to have the definitive docs 11 days after that, 12 days after that, that's simply an unrealistic time frame.
So with the Tampa City Council, would they have their vote right after your session? When will that take place?
It's my understanding, assuming we can get to an agreement on the definitive documents, again, there'll be probably 5 or 6 different documents, that our vote would take place at a normal board meeting on a Wednesday, and then City Council would vote the next day on a Thursday.
Okay.
Unless we get into a month where there's only one scheduled board meeting and we have to call an emergency meeting, which I hope we don't have to do. But typically when we have a major renovation agreement or a major agreement, county commission votes on Wednesday and city council votes on Thursday. So they'd be, back to back.
Back-to-back days. Gotcha. And you
Yep.
mentioned June the 1st because it's such a complicated deal. Even if you do approve it, it's not going to be finalized by June the 1st. Can you give kind of a rough estimate as to when something like this would get finalized?
Well, I keep asking that and candidly pounding that with our staff is, hey, we need to keep moving. We need to keep moving, keep the ball moving forward, even if there's unresolved issues. Let's get to an agreement on what we can and just keep moving. And they're unable to give an exact time frame. A lot of it, frankly, is in the Rays ballpark. I mean, in their hands, they have to make certain concessions. They have to be willing to agree on certain things. So some of that's up to them as well. But I would think a minimum 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
Ideally quicker than that. But I just don't want to. I don't want to sugarcoat the significance of these agreements, and again, ensuring that we are, protecting the taxpayers every step of the way.
Well, what are some of those concessions? Are you talking about like the money that they have to provide up front? Is that an issue?
Well, we understand the model that they're utilizing, and it's been a little bit challenging for us.
Mm-hmm.
However, we've made concessions on how our financial model is being set up, and we've recently changed on some of our funding to go from bonding to go as over a 4-year period, which they've agreed to do. So they don't need to have all the money up front, but we can give it over 4 years, which allows us to not bond, and that will save significant interest and bonding costs.
Mm-hmm.
By it's essentially a pay-as-you-go model.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've been very flexible in working with us on that. So not really on the upfront, but to the extent that we can spread it out, certainly makes it a lot easier. And so we're continuing to explore areas where we can potentially utilize, again, a pay-as-you-go model, which, again, just makes it a little bit easier on our end.
Wrapping it up here with Hillsborough County Commissioner Ken Hagan. Really appreciate the information, Ken, on a very, very busy Thursday with this big agreement, obviously, that's right ahead of you guys. You mentioned you talked to Brian Ford and the Buccaneers yesterday. Have they hinted as to what their plans are for Raymond James Stadium? Can you tell us anything about that?
Not really to any specificity, other than their goal is to move quickly on making a significant renovation agreement, and they're starting to have conversations with our sports authority staff on what potential projects could or would be included in that. So nowhere near the point where we can say, oh, there's going to be a cover or a roof, or there's going to be development here, development there. Nowhere near that to that point yet. But the most important thing is that they've indicated that they want to move forward, and they want to move forward sooner than later, and which is refreshing because we know we have zero chance of hosting any more Super Bowls or any other college football championships other than the one we have coming up until we have another major renovation. So, and it's in our best interest, again, maintain a state-of-the-art facility if we want to keep having the Taylor Swifts of the world, the Beyoncés of the world, and BTS, whoever the hell they are. I don't even know what that is, but that economic impact was bigger than Taylor Swift, apparently.
It sure
If we want
was.
to keep having the world's biggest acts,
Mm-hmm.
we have to keep our facilities up to date. And so, no, as far as specifics, but certainly welcoming news that they're willing and they want to start moving and making plans, and they want to work together. Literally, he used the term, hand in hand, working together in order to get this deal done. So all positive news when it comes to the Bucs, and looking forward to tonight's schedule announcement as well.
Yeah, so am I. So that's absolutely needed if we want to attract some of the big events like you just mentioned. But so it sounds like the Buccaneers do have a plan as to what they want to do to Ray J. You just don't know what that entails yet. Am I correct?
Yes, I think, and I don't want to give the impression that they have a firm understanding of what they want to do. I think they probably have an idea, but are still kicking it around and still trying to decide, okay, I mean, one thing that I stressed is, hey, I'm all for all the improvements, but we got to make sure that the non-club or non-suite fan benefits as much as the suite fan, if you will. And so making sure that there are improvements for everyone to see, regardless if you're in the 300 level or the 100 level, and like we did last time. And so, and looking at that and what projects, would qualify for funding, because certainly in our previous agreements, we're contractually obligated on essentially the language is NFL caliber stadium. Well, there's a lot of gray area there. I mean, does that mean Ethan Allen or does that mean rooms to go? And so just trying to determine, okay, what are appropriate projects for public funding, what are not. And so it takes a while to get there, but certainly I'm pleased that we've started having those discussions, and they're going to be the agreement will be sooner than later.
Okay,
certainly welcome.
Gotcha. So preliminary discussion starting there with the Buccaneers about what they want to do with Ray J and enhancing that facility. But obviously the thing that's right in front of us, next Wednesday, vote. The non-binding MOU, you expect that to pass, and maybe the Tampa City Council will follow suit, and then 30 to 60 days after that, you think we will arrive to a deal, hopefully, I don't know, mid-June, late June. I don't want to, jinx anything, Ken, but it sounds like it's going to take a couple of more weeks at least after that point in order for all of this to get finalized, because it's such a big deal, right?
It's certainly going to take it's going to take a little while.
Okay.
Now, again, we're moving as quickly as possible, but again, we're not going to veer away from our core principles and ensuring that that we're protecting the taxpayer. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money, and it's incumbent on us to ensure that we are covering every little detail from the moment that the agreement signed to opening day and the first pitch, and 20, 30 years from then. So. But yeah, I'm confident we'll get there, and it's just something like this. As much as I want to get it done, I want to have opening day in 29 as much as anyone. But we got to make sure that we're covering all the bases, and again, protecting the taxpayers throughout this.
Perfectly understandable. All right, last thing, because I tried to ask this of Tampa Mayor Jane Castor last week at this event, and she wouldn't give me a number. Give me a number. How confident are you that this thing finally gets over the finish line and gets done? Is it 50, 60, 70, 85%, 90%? What say you?
I've always been optimistic that we would get something done. But again, I've been optimistic for 16 years, and some folks would say that I just have rose-colored glasses on. So I don't know. But it's hard to say. I would 75, 80.
Okay.
How's that?
I like that. I can work with that. I can live with that. I think a lot of people can live with that as well. Listen, Ken, I know you're very busy. I really appreciate a few minutes enlightening all of us as to what's going on. It sounds like things are trending in the right direction. Best of luck next week with the meetings and the vote and everything else, and we certainly appreciate a few minutes of your time here on The Drive. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man. Anytime, Tom. Take care, bud.
You got it. You take care as well. That's Ken the Hitman Hagan. All right, 75 to 80%. I finally got somebody on the record to give me a number. Ken Babby wouldn't do it. Jane Castor wouldn't do it. Ken Hagan just gave me a number. He paused. He was thinking about it. He knows there are a lot of people listening. He knows the Rays are listening. He knows a ton of people are listening right now with great intent. And he said 75 to 80%. I can live with that.